October 2nd, 2001, Zurich Airport, morning. The aircraft are there. Every gate is full. MD-11s, A330s, A320s, parked exactly where they should be, technically airworthy, fully crewed. Some passengers are already seated. Cockpit checklists are open. And then, one by one, the departures stop. Not weather, not mechanical failure, not a security threat. The aircraft are grounded because the airline that owns them cannot pay for the next hour of operations. By the end of that day, 39,000 passengers were stranded across the world. Swissair, nicknamed the Flying Bank, one of the most trusted carriers in aviation history, has effectively ceased to exist. Not with a crash, not with a fire, with operational cash exhausted and emergency financing that did not become available in time to keep the airline running. Swissair was founded in 1931. For 7 decades, it has built a reputation almost no airline has matched. On-time performance is measured to the minute. Cabin service that set the European benchmark. A balance sheet so conservatively managed that analysts called it the Flying Bank, not as flattery, but as a statement of financial fact. This was an airline that had never posted an annual loss. An airline so embedded in Swiss national identity that its livery on approach to Zurich felt to many Swiss like a flag coming home. From the outside, nothing suggested catastrophe. But by the late 1990s, the world was reorganizing itself around airline alliances Swissair was not part of, and a strategy was forming inside the boardroom that would quietly spend everything the airline had built. In 1992, Swiss voters rejected membership in the European Economic Area. For Swissair, that vote had an immediate operational consequence. Every other major European carrier was flying within a deregulated open market. Swissair was still bound by bilateral agreements, limiting where it could fly and on what terms. The alliance networks forming around Lufthansa, British Airways, and Air France were building route connectivity that Swissair alone could not compete with. The board's answer was the hunter strategy. Instead of joining an existing alliance, Swissair would build its own network by buying stakes in struggling European carriers. Swissair Group, the parent holding company, took a 49.5% stake in Belgium's Sabena, stakes in Germany's LTU, in France's AOM, Air Liberté, and Air Littoral, and pursued expansion plans involving Portugal's TAP Air Portugal, in Poland's LOT, in South Africa's SAA. Every airline in that portfolio was losing money. Sabena alone required continuous capital injections to keep flying. The operational complexity compounded the financial damage. Each acquired carrier ran different fleets, different training programs, and different labor agreements. Managing them required bandwidth and capital that SA Group was increasingly unable to provide. In 2000, Swissair posted its first annual loss in 70 years, Swiss franc 2.9 billion. By mid-2001, Air Group's total debt had reached Swiss franc 17 billion. Equity stood at 5% of the balance sheet. The Flying Bank had spent its reserves acquiring airlines it could not afford to fix.
September 11 did not create the Swissair crisis. It accelerated one already in terminal decline. When transatlantic demand collapsed overnight, every airline in the world was bleeding cash. But most carriers held liquidity reserves sufficient to absorb weeks of disruption. Swissair entered that crisis with almost nothing left. By late September 2001, Swissair's available liquidity had fallen to critically low levels, leaving the airline with only days of operational flexibility.
UBS and Credit Suisse agreed on September 29th to provide emergency bridge financing, SFR $250 million, to guarantee operations until October 3rd.
The contracts were drafted. The transfer was scheduled. But the financing structure and release conditions delayed access to the funds long enough that Swissair could no longer sustain normal operations on October 2nd. According to Swissair management at the time, only a very limited amount of immediately usable cash remained available for daily operations, though later investigations disputed the exact figures. The morning of October 2nd, fuel suppliers stopped servicing Swissair aircraft. Not a scheduling dispute. They require payment before pumping another liter, and the account cannot cover it. Airport handling companies demand upfront cash. Catering firms pause deliveries. Ground support operators stand down. Inside Swissair's operational control center, the picture forming is unlike anything the dispatchers have trained for. Aircraft are airworthy. Crews are checked in. Passengers, in some cases, are seated and belted. But the operational chain surrounding those aircraft, the fuel, the handling, the catering, the ground support, is breaking link by link as suppliers withdraw trust from an airline they no longer believe can pay. European flights are grounded first. International services canceled through the afternoon. By evening, Swissair has ceased scheduled operations worldwide. Swissair was not grounded by weather, war, or mechanical failure. It was grounded by the collapse of operational trust, the invisible system of credit and confidence that every airline depends on to move a single aircraft from one airport to another. When limited flights eventually resumed under emergency Swiss government bridge loans, the operational damage was visible in a single detail. Crews operating those flights had to carry large personal sums of cash to buy fuel at foreign airports. The airline's credit was so destroyed that fuel suppliers would not pump without immediate payment in hand. Switzerland's national carrier was running intercontinental flights funded partly by cash in a pilot's jacket pocket. Swissair's final scheduled operations ended on April 1st, 2002, bringing 71 years of flying to a close. Crossair was renamed Swiss International Airlines and absorbed Swissair's routes, aircraft, and staff. Swiss was acquired by Lufthansa in 2005. Air Group's liquidation proceedings were not completed until 2024, 23 years after the grounding. Banks, creditors, and bondholders ultimately absorbed losses totaling several billion Swiss francs. If you want more stories about the aviation decisions that changed history, subscribe to AviaTails. Hit the bell so you never miss a video. See you in the next one.